Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Welcome to the Sunday morning family tree workshop of the Jewish Genealogical Society of Montreal. Wherever you may be, you're certainly more than welcome. Bienvenue, and all the other words that say welcome. For those of you who are attending the first time, the mission of the Jewish Genealogical Society of Montreal Sunday morning family workshop is to help you advance your research no matter where you are. If you're just starting, we're glad to give you some hints on what to do. If you have a brick wall, something that has been a problem in trying to solve, whether it's been a week or 10 years, we'll try to help you do that as well. One of the things that you'll find that is my policy is to take each and every question and expand it into a learning opportunity. So if I go off on a tangent, please excuse me. But I hope that that process will give everybody an opportunity to learn something. You may be able to jump in and educate me, and I'm always ready to learn. So as we say in French, schäm sich nicht. And so we start typically by having an opportunity to meet newcomers, men and women who we haven't seen before. We like a very brief, that's very brief, story on where you live, how long you've been researching, and where you're researching. So keep it under 2 minutes if you don't mind. We'll do that round first, and then we'll get into the questions. So Julie, you're here for the first time, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So why don't you start?
Okay. I'm from Montreal. I was raised not Jewish. My father's family came from Lebanon at the turn of the century. So I know all the history of my father's family on that side.
Marhaba. Marhaba.
My mother's family came from Europe, and all I knew was that she was born in England, and they came to Canada in the early 50s, and their last name was Stein. And besides that, I knew nothing. I knew my grandmother. My grandfather passed away when my mom was young. And I have not known that I was actually Jewish until I did a ancestry test.
You did a DNA.
It came back 50% Jewish and 50% Arab. So here I am trying to find out my family's history.
Well, let me just comment on that, because you are certainly not the first person to get a DNA test and say, what? And because of my role with JRI Poland and also with the Jewish Genealogical Society of Montreal, I have been deeply involved in so many cases trying to pin down where the Jewish origins are. And I'm going to take the liberty of telling you one very quick story. Last July, Michael Tobias, who is my colleague in JRI Poland, co-founder of JRI Poland with me in 1995, lives in Scotland. And he got an email from a lady who had heard about his knowledge of Jewish genealogy and said, I just have a DNA. I've known all my life that the man that brought me up was not my birth father. And I've discovered that my father was Jewish. I won't go into the whole Megillah, the long story, but all I will say, in the next 3 weeks, Michael Tobias, using DNA, all the different DNA sites and the records of JRI Poland, was able to introduce this lady to 4 sisters and brothers who were all born to different women. Their father, Yankel Berliner, born in Lodz, Poland in 1924, was in England during the war, and he took it as his personal mission to populate all of England with his seed. So when it comes to surprises, one of the if you will, a funny part of that story is that one of the half siblings, a brother, was born a month apart from when she was born, two different mothers. I have a picture of him. He's a good looking guy. I could see what happened. All right. So uh, thank you, Julie. And we'll get back to you. We'll try to help you. Next person who has not been with us before, put up your hand, please. Okay, Bernie, why don't you tell us a little bit about your story?
I was born in a DP camp in Linz, Austria, and I came to Canada. I was 1 year old. My sister and I have been trying to find whatever information we can on our parents and the people that passed away, and we just can't seem to find anything.
Well, didn't I already send you some information, Bernie?
Yeah, you sent me some stuff, but I really don't know.
Okay.
Well, we've been at Yad Vashem. We've tried there. We've tried a few places. My sister maybe more so than I have, but again, can't get anywhere.
Okay, so what we'll do when we get to you, Bernie, I will show you all the Milanarski records from it was what was it, from Łódź? I can't remember.
From Łódź, yes.
Yeah, from Łódź. Okay, so I will, because Bernie and I have just been in touch a couple of days, and I have already prepared some information for him.
Yeah,
next person who hasn't spoken before, hasn't been with us before, Holly. Hi, welcome.
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I grew up in Montreal. I live in Ville Saint Laurent. I was actually born in Ontario. I've been working on my genealogy for probably about 12 years, not seriously, but I've started doing it seriously the last couple of years. I've taken courses, and I'm stuck on my paternal grandparents. And I've done the DNA tests. I have a small proportion of Jewish ancestry. So I'm thinking it may be farther back, but I'm stuck on my great grandparents. My grandfather was born in Bavaria, and my great grandmother's, his mother's last name was Ekman. So I'm hoping that that might be a clue. I may not find any Jewish records on my great grandparents, but at this point I can't narrow it down. And my grandfather never left any information about, his family after he came to Canada in 1996.
Oh, okay, well, we'll get to that again. So is there anybody else that's new? No. So let's start with Julie and your challenge. What if you had an answer to one question, what would be that first question?
Well, I would like to know about my my grandfather, Hubert Stein. Doing the ancestry thing, I found some relatives on my grandmother's side, so I know her history a little bit. She was from she was born in Austria, but her parents were from a town called Podivin, I believe.
How would you spell that?
Podivin. Kostel, it's also called.
Pardon
Kostel, Kostel, or the other name it's given is Podivin, Podivin. And so I know her parents. I found her family. Her father was called Julius Lowy, and her mother was Charlotte Cohen. But it's my grandfather's family that I can't find any information about. I have his parents' names, but then whenever I search for anything, I can't find anything about them.
Okay, so which country are we talking about?
Austria.
Are you sure it's Austria and not the Galician province of the Austro-Hungarian Empire?
Okay. I'm not sure. I mean, he was born in Vienna. My grandfather was born in Vienna. So I know that that's where he was born, but I don't know where his parents were from.
Did you find his birth record?
I found something on Gen Team, and it's just like a record of his birthday and the names of his parents.
Okay. But you don't know where that record was created?
It says Vienna, W-I-E-N. I'm assuming that's Vienna.
Yes, Wien. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's in a book. I mean, it tells you all the information about what book and volume is in some library, I assume. So I guess it is an actual record.
Okay.
Whenever
So,
I've tried to search his parents, I don't come up with anything.
all right. So let me give you some hints. First of all, don't wander in the desert by yourself. The first rule of Jewish genealogy is network, network, network. There are people out there that know more about your family than you probably will ever know. It's only because we're all related in one way or another. So if you're talking about your Jewish roots, by the way, your Arabic roots are from where? From Beirut?
From my grandfather was from Beirut, and my grandmother was from what is now Lebanon, but was then Syria. So
I see. Okay.
they came very 200 years ago when Christians were being persecuted in Lebanon and Syria. And so that's where they're from. So I know everything about that.
Okay. Well, I have a little bit of background as far as Lebanon is concerned. I'll tell you about that some other time. Are you familiar with the Jewish Gen Family Finder?
No.
Okay, so let's start with that. I'm going to bring up the Jewish Gen Family Finder. I'm going to share screens. And I have no email this morning, I see. Okay. And we'll do Jewish Gen. So Jewish Gen is the home of Jewish genealogy on the internet. And anybody who's interested in doing Jewish family history should absolutely get lost on this website and learn the many different tools that are available to you. Hello? Yeah, all the different things that are available to you.
Oh, it's great. Yeah.
I'm sorry, can you not see this?
Yes.
Okay, so first thing is to try to find your ancestral town. So if you go here and you put in the name of the town, the different variations, try a lot of different things, try to pin down the country if you can, but you also can search phonetically like. Phonetically like means it's almost perfect spelling. Sounds like is a much more general sound alike, where the B and the F and the W all have the same value. If you want to force the name of the town, starting with a certain letter, and still use SoundX, you put that first letter in brackets, square brackets. So that's number one. So let's say we were looking for, let's do a one. We know there's going to be a lot of people. So we're looking for Lodz. And we click on here and we see Lodz, Poland. And we click on Lodz, Poland. And these are all the different sources of information. But if you look here, it says JGFF, Jewish Genealogical Family Finder. And there's 6,596 matches. That doesn't mean 6,956 researchers. It only means name matches. And I've clicked on it. It's a little slow coming up. So I'm going to go back into database and I'm going to search the Family Finder database right here. And since we know that we have a Milinarski here with us today, we're going to see who else is interested in the name Milanarski. I probably am spelling it wrong.
MLY.
MLY.
Yeah, NARSKI.
Oh, here it is. No, that's not it. Milan. Okay. And it's slow this morning. The Jewish world is searching on Jewish Gen this morning. Ah. Have I spelled it right?
Yeah, correct.
That's strange.
It's a
So
very common name in Poland from what I
it is,
understand.
and there should be.
Means like Miller.
So we're going to do, and I put it for any town. So I'm going to put it Soundex or sound alike instead of, because in the, when people emigrated, the name, particularly name that starts ML, which most people can't pronounce if they're not brought up speaking Polish. And what happens often is that, so you can see all the different variations of Milanarski. And this one here is from Sochachev. Sochachev, well, we see that this researcher, Sandra Robinson, has deceased. There's Malinsky, Malinsky, here's a Milanarski in Lithuania. So when you start seeing the name in different places, what you want to find out are, what does the family name mean? Do you know what the name means,
I
Bernie?
believe it means Miller.
I'm sorry?
I believe it means Miller.
Miller.
Yeah. And if it means Miller, it could, here's another one here. This is from Lithuania as well. It would mean that it's a name that is an adjectival name, and that would normally be taken by many families. It wouldn't be unique to one or two families.
Yeah, that's my maiden name.
Miller or Milanarski?
No, Miller.
Yeah, well, of course, there's a million Millers. All right, so I'm not going to belabor this, but that is one of the most important places that you can go. There isn't a Jewish genealogist who hasn't found family in one way or another through the Family Finder over a period of years. And we've had wonderful stories of success at our Sunday morning family tree workshop. One day, a lady came in and said her family was from Alsace-Lorraine. And we put her family name into the Family Finder, and up came a hit. Somebody who was interested in her name from Alsace-Lorraine. And right there and then, we clicked on, as you can see it right here, click on, and we filled out the form. And within a day, she heard from a second cousin that she never knew existed. But that second cousin had been looking for her family and didn't know that it had gone to Montreal. So that's why we, a little bit of preaching.
Wow.
The Family Finder is
Love
very.
it. Love it.
I'm sorry?
I said, love it.
Yeah. So that's an important one. Another important feature so let's take Milanarski again. I'm going to and I'm going to do something else. Now, these are people who know that they're related to a Milanarski family or some spelling. But now we'll go to something called the family tree of the Jewish people. And first of all, I have to do that. Now I'm going to put Milanarski, and I'm going to put I'll put Woods just in case. And I'm going to see if there's anybody, and there's no hits. So we'll go back, and this time we'll take out Woods, and we'll something is very wrong. So let's do, instead of phonetic, we'll do, no, I'm sorry. We'll do sound X. And now you'll see there's 1,550 matches. And if we scroll down here, let's see, well, there's a Milanitsky, let's assume that you were interested in somebody by the name of Fischel, or here, Harry Milanitsky. And what you get is a family tree. And one of the wonderful things about this family tree of the Jewish people, and I have the best experience with that, is that you may not be directly related to somebody by blood, but they may be a cousin of a cousin. And so that's why it's important to check the family tree of the Jewish people. 20 years ago, a man in North Carolina found the name Al Kravitz in my family tree. And he said, I'm related to an Al Kravitz. And when he saw the mother's name, Ada, he said, that's my cousin. Because of that contact, Al Kravitz got in his car from New Jersey with his grandson and wife and came up to Montreal within a week to meet a second cousin he never knew existed. And why did I not know about this second cousin, or he didn't know about me? First of all, our family had moved from New York to Montreal. But second of all, his grandmother was 25 years younger than her older brother, my grandfather. So these are the kinds of connections that sometimes come out of the blue. So we'll stop sharing screens. No, let me just go back to something else on Jewish Gen. If we put in, we search tens of million or record, this is called the unified search, searching all the different databases that are included in the in Jewish Gen's website. And in this case, it also includes JRI Poland, my organization. We allow, it actually uses something called an API to search our data. It's not on the Jewish Gen server. It's not in the Jewish Gen, but it's searchable by Jewish Gen. So we're going to search all the different, we see there are six records only with that name, and they're from Lithuania. Now, one thing I can tell you, Benny, is that it's also always possible that the family came to Łódź from what is now Lithuania. Remember, between the wars, Lithuania was a great part of Lithuania was in Poland, and there was a tremendous amount of movement between the different countries because of the Yiddish language, which was very portable and enabled you to live almost anywhere in Eastern Europe. Now, let me go back here. And one other thing that this is the discussion group, and let me give you an example of the discussion group rather than so let's take a look at so these are messages that are posted by people from all over the world looking for help. And no matter what you post, somebody somewhere should respond, may respond. Here's somebody who's hung up over the spelling. What was the Polish spelling of Maction? And this is a problem that many people face because they don't know what the original spelling was, and it's been anglicized in some way to make it easier to pronounce. So people post a message and say, what do you think the original name was? That's another way in which people find out what the original name is. Let's say if they're from Poland, if you go to the JRI Poland website and let's say we're interested in the town of we'll go to Łódź again, and we'll go to Łódź, and you see what it says right here. It says surnames from the records 1936 to 39, 16 to 35, 1878 to 1901. These are different years because, so here's a list. So if you take a look at some of these things, you'll see Agorovitz, two different spellings. Now, both those spellings will come up in a search system, in a search, but sometimes you get names that won't come up in a search that are almost identical. Look at this one here as an example. It says Ein Schindler. This one's Ein Schindler with an N in it. That N will not come up if you're, that name will not come up. So you go to the surname list in order to learn what variations may be, may exist for your family name. And sometimes there's a reason for this. One is a mistake was made when the record was first made. Secondly, it was transcribed wrong when it was first indexed. And these are the kinds of things that we, as far as JRI Poland, are concerned with, are looking at correcting as we improve our data. So now, just to go back again to JewishGen, let's go back to JewishGen. Now you'll notice it says Odessa birth index. Now, why is that name in Odessa? Milinarsky, very close, because people moved. On the other hand, that's where DNA sometimes comes in, because you learn that their families with the same name are not related. So I'm going to move on from that. And let me go back to stop sharing screens. I hope, Julie, that gives you a little bit of a hint of starting. Now, another thing is, when did the family come to Montreal?
In 1951 or 1952?
Okay. Another thing that you may want to do now, of course, they were married when they came here, right?
Yeah.
Okay. You know about the naturalization records.
No.
Okay. So that's something, these are your parents that you're interested in, right?
Well, my mother was a child when they came.
Okay. So you are allowed to get your mother's naturalization records, even though they may not be readily available, online. The naturalization records are online up to 1949. The 1949, 1953 are coming up. They came in 1951, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were naturalized afterwards. So you'd have to write to Citizenship and Immigration Canada and get that document, because the application for citizenship contains a lot of invaluable information.
Right, right.
If you had if your family had come earlier, I would show you the naturalization index, which you can search from the JGS of Montreal, dashboard. You saw the dashboard, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so you'd be able to search that. Now, when you search the naturalization index of Canada, it doesn't have a sound alike capability. However, since the our society, the Jewish Genealogical Society of Montreal, is the organization that indexed the 600,000 records. And I'm very proud to say that was done by my wife over 10 years. We have our own way of searching it on our own internal system, and we have sound-alike searches. So I'm not going to show it to you right now. We'll hope we'll have another opportunity as we go forward. So we'll move on from there, Julie.
So Julie, what was the name?
My grandfather's last name was Stein. So my mother's
Stein. He's from Vienna. He's from Vienna.
Yeah.
And first name?
Hubert.
What Andres is doing now is checking an Austrian website.
Can I just?
Yeah, Holly.
I did get the naturalization record for my grandfather. You can look up the number on the index. You write. They sent me back a whole DVD that I printed out. It took about 6 months last year. It may be slower because of COVID, but it really is, as Stanley said, it's worthwhile getting it.
Yeah, if you can get your hands on it. Now, if your family had come as Jews, then they probably would have been registered with the Jewish Immigrant Aid Society, and these are called the JIAS records, and those are available from the Canadian Jewish Archives. But if they didn't come as Jews, then they would not be in that particular set of records.
Okay.
Any luck, Andres? You're muted, Andre.
So that's what she found. It's an InGen team, and it has the last name and the first name of the father. And these are records that are held by the Kehillah, by the Vienna Kehillah, and you can get the original from the Kehillah if you write them. Okay. But it doesn't give you where he was born.
Okay.
That's the problem here.
However,
it says it was recorded later in 1907, although you. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things I talk about networking, there is an Austrian-Hungary special interest group on Jewish Gen. Okay. So let's take a look at that again. I'm going to share screens very quickly. And we go here and it says, if you look here, research, and it says discussion groups, research divisions, Austria, Czechoslovakia. I'm sorry, it's Austria, Czechoslovakia. And I can tell you that there are some very expert researchers who are involved in this particular group. Did you see Woman of Gold?
Yes.
Okay, well, the lawyer from Randy Schoenberg, the lawyer who was the feature man, he is one of the coordinators. He's quite a guy. So what you want to do is you want to wander around here. Mm-hmm. You want to ask questions. There are contacts. There are projects. Austria, here's, for example, different projects. Beginner's Guide to Austrian Jewish Genealogy. And here he is, Randall Schoenberg. So that's another thing. As I said, reach out, find other people who may know more than you. That's the secret of learning in Jewish genealogy. All right, so we're going to move on to somebody else who has not been here with us before. Who was that? There was one other person who was here for the first time. I don't see that. Oh yeah,
Sophia.
Holly. Okay, Holly.
Sophia too.
Oh, okay. So Holly, we'll start with you.
Okay. So my starting point is my grandfather who came over, I think I said 36, but he came over in 1930. And I do have his naturalization record. I can't find a birth record for him. His name is Aloysius, spelled with an I, Hamerl, H-A-I, well, like my spelling. And, you know, I find that he was born in Oberschneiding, Germany, which is Bavaria.
Right.
He was born in 1903. And the names I have for his parents from his marriage certificate to my grandmother are Joseph Hamerl and Teresa Ekman. I like, this has been quite an eye-opener, what you're showing me on Jewish Gen, because I have a membership to it, but you're showing me things that I never even looked at, which I think are going to be helpful.
Yeah. Well,
But,
and also when it comes to German research, there is a maven, an expert that can help you if you get lost.
Okay.
If you're wondering, okay, where do I go next? But be very succinct. He's a very, very busy guy. His name is Roger Lustig, and you will see. I can tell you his email address. Let me just give that to you.
Which part of Bavaria are we talking? You know the town?
It on the birth information it says Oberschneiding.
Oberschneiding. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
So Roger Lustig's email address is roger.lustig.
Lustig.
Yes, correct. At verizon.net.
Verizon.net.
Another thing about, there is the Ger Sig, the German Sig
Okay.
website, on Jewish Gen, the same thing that like the Austrian Czechoslovakian, there's the Ger Sig. They have a mailing list as well, I think, or maybe it's all been merged into Jewish Gen. You never know what somebody is going to come up with in the way of an answer to a question. Also, keep in mind, if you go to Jewish Gen, you can also search the Jewish Gen archives, which means all the messages that have been posted since 1993. So you're talking 27 years of different messages. And many people have made remarkable finds because not all genealogists are working at their family history every day. They put it aside and then they come back to it. But, during the pandemic, a lot of people have come back to it. It's been a very busy time for those of us who try to help. Okay, Holly, we're going to move on to
Thank you.
to Sophia. Unmute yourself, Sophia.
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you now.
Okay. So my name is Sophia. I was born in Mexico. My mom's side is Jewish. They have a long story in Mexico. They came to Mexico like in 1500, something like that.
So this is a Sephardic family then?
Yes, from my mother's side, but that's a Sephardic family. It has links in Russia, Lithuania, Latvia, and many other places. And then from my father's side, what I knew, what we knew, it was that he was an Arab person mixed with the Spanish that was living in Mexico too. And 1 month ago, approx, we knew that my grandma, like my father's mom, she was a survivor from Mauthausen before being Mauthausen, and that my great grandpa was shot because he was against the fascist movement. And then my grandma was saved to come to Mexico, but it was under a condition of serving the Catholic Church. She was saved by one of her brothers. Well, we knew that it was her brother, but I think it's her cousin or something like that, who was a high range in a Lions team, which they call the Masonry team, and which they were politicians, and then they saved her because like they had the chance.
Well, what town, if they were in Mauthausen, what town were they from?
From Astorga,
From where?
Astorga, Spain.
No, but oh, and they were shipped to Mauthausen from Spain?
Yep. They were originally in Astorga, and in fact, their second last name is Astorga. It's a small part of Spain, and they were living there. And because of the fascists, I don't know exactly how the things were.
Yeah.
The point was that they were transported. They were. My grandma arrived to Mexico in 1937. My great grandpa was killed on 1936, like 1 year before.
Where was he killed?
1936.
Where?
Where? In Spain. Exactly the place, I don't know exactly the spot, but it was in Spain.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I'm gathering from what you're talking about is there's a lot of different places that are involved and a lot of different events and many different, different countries. Have you tried to document this in some sort of way that can convey the story to other people?
In fact, like I have been researching and I have been requesting some information. The point is that the people that could have the information, it's the people that was in charge of following up like the commitment that my grandma had in order to serve to the Catholic Church. In fact, that part of the story is in the MyHeritage page. And then I saw that there was a person saying that my grandma, giving information from my grandma. And I was like, I was so surprised because I don't know that person. It was another last name, like the physical face is not even the same, like not even the mind, like it's totally the opposite. Then I was asking, like, if you really know this part of the family, I would like to know more. She never replied back. Well, she replied and she asked me, like, are you Alfredo's daughter or Guillermo's daughter? And I didn't reply to that because I don't know who's that person.
Okay, so let me, because we have to move on. Let me make a couple of points. One of the things you have to keep in mind is that unless you're prepared to share, people sometimes say, well, she's not telling me, so I'm not going to reply. So you have to find out who that person is. And today on the internet, you can really find out a lot about somebody without them ever knowing about it. So keep that in mind. Sharing is a critical factor in getting information. Give information, get information. That's very important. Second thing is I would recommend that you concentrate. I mean, it's very easy to spend your time going off, we call it in a shotgun fashion, in a number of different directions. In genealogy, we say follow the paper trail, follow the paper trail. So start with one thing, concentrate on it, reach out to different people, try the Jewish Gen mailing list, tell a little bit of the story. You don't know who knows something somewhere.
Yeah.
Have you searched, if somebody was in Mauthausen, have you searched the Arlson records, the International Tracing Service of the Red Cross?
No, exactly. That's my point. I would like to know like more. Where can I have more information about that?
Okay, so that's we call Holocaust related research, and there are Holocaust records on Jewish Gen. There are Holocaust records in the United States Holocaust Memorial. They have the survivors and victims. There's a database there. Yad Vashem, pages of testimony. Do you know what pages of testimony are?
No.
Okay. Mark down Yad Vashem, pages of testimony. Somebody may have put in a page of testimony of a family member who died in the Holocaust, and that name will appear. So you can you can contact that person.
Okay.
There's also a book by Gary Mokatoff on how to research Holocaust related records, but there's also so much information on the internet how to search Holocaust records. Okay, so we're gonna move on. Who's next? Somebody put up their hand with a question. No questions? Okay.
I have.
Okay. Emily, go ahead.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, sorry. So basically, last time I was on, you really helped me a lot. My great-grandparents, Hannah Weinrach and Joseph Greenberg, moved to Canada, to Montreal, about 1900. They were married at the time. They came from Piatra Neamt in Romania. I found out a lot of information about the Weinrach family, but I haven't been able to find out the maiden name of Hannah's mother. On the other side, the Greenberg side, I really haven't been able to find out anything besides the parents of Joseph and perhaps a brother who died young. But I'm really stuck. I don't know who what Faggy's maiden name is. She and her husband Leib or Leibush are buried in Yassi, and so coincidentally is Hannah Weinrach's mother Mina buried in Yassi. She must have been on a visit there or something, in Yashi, I should say. But I cannot find out any information about Joseph, if he had any other brothers who survived or died even. And I cannot find out any information about the mothers of Joseph Greenberg and Mina.
Now you're talking about
Mina Weinrach in terms of their maiden names.
You're talking about records from Romania.
Yes, records from Romania.
Okay.
I've looked on Jewish Gen.
Yeah.
Haven't gotten any luck there.
Keep in mind that not all the records are online yet. JRI Poland has 6.2 million records in our database. We have another probably 500,000 records that are not online for one reason or another, mostly because they're covered by Polish privacy laws. Other reasons are that they haven't been funded. We've spent money creating the data, and we now have to raise the funds to pay for it before we put it online. We put it online, we're not going to be able to raise the funds. So keep that in mind. The other thing,
I'm just wondering if there's somebody way to get somebody who you would know, somebody who would go to the cemetery and perhaps find the tombstones. At least then we would find out.
You're talking about somebody going to the cemetery in Yassi?
In Yashi, yeah, perhaps. I don't know. I have no other idea of how to get the maiden names.
Okay, so here's, again, I would recommend the ROMSIG, Romanian Special Interest Group. That is the place to start, and to look for contacts and to look for people who are interested in Yassi. Have you checked the Family Finder for other people interested?
I contacted people. I mean, the truth is, there is a story in the family that both Hannah Weinrach and Joseph Greenberg are both descended from the Berditchev Rebbe, Levi Yitzchak of Berditchev.
Descended from whom?
Somebody named Levi Yitzchak from Berditchev, who's a very famous rabbi.
Okay, so hold on.
I contacted all these people saying, have you heard this story? Is this story in your family, et cetera, and nobody seemed to have heard this story.
Have you searched, have you researched the rabbinic part of the story?
So I haven't been able to get far enough down to connect them up, basically.
I understand that, but there are many rabbinic genealogies.
What do you mean in terms of groups?
Go to the RAV-SIG, RAV-SIG, which is the rabbinical website on Jewish Gen.
Oh, okay. I didn't know about that part.
And then there are people like Neil Rosenstein. Do you know the name Neil Rosenstein?
No.
Well, if you go on, you'll see that he has written books on rabbinical families. He is the maven on rabbinic research.
Okay.
And you'll see he posts on Jewish Gen all the time. He's looking for this, looking for that, looking for different descendants of rabbinical families.
So it's RAV, R-A-V, or
RAV
R-A-V?
is in Victor.
Okay. Okay, fine. Thank you. I'll try that.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you very much.
All right.
Stanley Neva had a question, and then Sue.
Okay. What's the question? Neva, can you
Yep, I just did that.
can we see your
Hi.
face? Can we see your face, or that's
I'm a little bit uncomfortable with the recording in the live and all
okay?
that. Yeah. So, hi everyone. I'm really happy to be with you guys today. It's my second workshop with you. You might remember my story. I'm the one who was trying to find the link with our folkloric history. We were told that we had a link with Max Liebermann, the famous painter in Germany. And it turns out that your gut feeling was probably right, because nothing that I found led to him. That being said, I did find a lot of documentation since our last workshop, which I really thank you so much for your help. And where I'm at right now is that I'm trying to find, I found the manifest of alien passenger of the US Immigration Office from 1906 of Samuel Liebermann. So this guy in my family stated that he was from Russia, and he went through Liverpool to arrive in New York. I basically have no other information from him, and the folklore history in our family links us to Piotrków in Russia, which is now Poland. And I'm trying to figure out, and I'm kind of at a wall right now to have more information on who is Samuel Liebermann and how can I link him to Piotrków, Poland, or wherever he's from in Russia, which is probably Poland now. So that's it. So I was wondering if you could maybe help me with that.
Oh, okay. So which town did you say? Tarnopol?
Piotrków. I don't know if I pronounce it properly.
Spell it.
Pietrkw, I think.
CIET.
No. P as in Peter. I. E. T as in Thomas. R as in Ronald. K as in kangaroo. W. I might be misspelling it. Last time you showed me that, well, we had the wrong pronunciation. We thought it was Pedros. I don't remember. Anyways, you found it in your documents that we had the phonetic way of writing it, and
Well, I would have to know the name of the town. What was the correct spelling for it? Do you know?
Yeah, I noted down. Just give me a second. So last time we spoke, you mentioned to me that, well, that's unfortunate, Mike. I only have the misspelled, but last time you were able to find it with the misspelled one. It's Piotrków, the misspelled one. So P as in Peter, E.
Let's start this again. Start. Okay. What's P?
P as in Peter.
Yeah.
E.
Yeah.
D as in dad. R as in Ronald. O.
Yeah. Hello? Hello? I don't hear you. I don't hear you.
Oh, somebody put me on mute again. So, I don't know what happened.
P-E-E-B-R-O.
K as in Q as in kangaroo,
Yeah.
O, F as in February, S, F as in February.
Oh,
Pietrokov.
it's Pietrokov.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
Oh, it's Pietrokov Tribal Newski near Łódź.
That I would not know, but I know that it's currently in Poland. At the time in 1904-ish, it was Russia.
Oh, okay. Well, that's right, because up until Poland was reconstituted as a country after the First World War, it had been absorbed into the Russian Empire, although there was a semi-independent called Kingdom of Poland. So that's why you see in the records from Russia rather than from Poland. Did I actually search the Pietrokov records for you?
Really rapidly, but I
Okay, so I'm not going to do it now. What I'd like you to do is to write me privately, and I will continue this discussion so we can move on. Bernie, let's take a look at Bernie's family.
I think Sue had a question.
Oh, Sue. Okay. Where's Sue?
I'm here. Okay. It was just brief. Emily was.
Sue, I'm sorry. Can you talk closer to the microphone, because it's very tinny.
Is that better?
That's much better.
Okay, it's because I have one of those external sound systems and it was further away. Okay. Emily was talking about Greenbergs in Montreal, and you may remember that years ago I was told that my grandfather was Greenberg and so forth, but I sort of put him on the shelf. But because I did that, I did a lot of research on that name in Montreal, and I remember there are Romanian Greenbergs in downtown Montreal in the era that you are speaking of. And I don't know if you've searched the street directories, because that's where I found them. Emily.
Okay, so if you could communicate
Thank
with
you. Thank
Emily
you.
about that.
Thank you. Probably a lot of them are my family. Yeah.
Why don't you put your email address in the chat?
Emily, if you give me your email address, I'll write to you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so put that in the chat. All right. So let's go on to Bernie. I'm going to share screens. And I'm going to go to hold on a second. I know I made a file for you, Bernie, and I'm no, that's not it. I've got a mental block, Bernie. I'm sorry. Did I? I can't find it. It's NLYN, right? Bernie? Mr. Melanovsky, are you around? Oh, I don't. I'm going to stop sharing. Or Bernie, Bernie,
Yeah.
I don't hear you.
MLYNARSKI.
Yeah, okay.
Stanley, would it be
Yeah.
possible for me to contact you together with my sister?
Yeah,
Because she's more familiar with the, with the
all right. So yeah, absolutely. Contact me privately. But in the meantime, I'm just going to share screens again for a second.
Okay.
And you'll see that I was in touch with an Eitan Milinarsky. And the family was from a place called Prishtik, which is near Radom, Poland.
Yeah.
I'm going to look it up. I'm just looking. I'm going to look up for those of you who can see, I'm looking up this book here, which is an invaluable source, a dictionary of Jewish names from the Kingdom of Poland. We're hoping to incorporate this in our new website. So it's MLY. And according MLY Milinarsky, it is from based on the word millinage. Millinage is a miller, like we heard. But what's interesting is because Milinarsky is a toponymical, adjectival name, it is seen in the records basically all over Poland. In the north, up in what's called the Suwałki Gubernia, in the Lublin Gubernia, in the Kielce Gubernia, and Pinchów in the Pietrków Gubernia. So you can be sure that the name is not going to tie you to other people unless you can pin it down to a specific town. So that's the challenge there. So we'll talk. Excuse me again. Anybody else have a question?
How do I contact you, Stanley?
I emailed you.
Okay.
You have my email?
I have your email.
Okay, so you start that way. Okay, somebody had their hand up just now. Susan Rand Lackritz.
Hello. I have been working on the immigration pattern of my families. This is general for anybody who maybe has done a little research on this. Right now I'm working on the family that my family that came from Lithuania. They probably made it to the Berlin train station and from there took the train to Hamburg. And from Hamburg, I know what happened. I'm curious if anybody has figured out ways that families travel to these main rail stations from smaller towns, either in Poland or in Lithuania or in the general Eastern European area.
Okay, so you have, what period of time was this?
1890.
1890.
Mm-hmm.
It was near the end of the 1800s that the shipping companies, the people that started to bring the immigrants, realized, excuse me, too much talking, that they had to make it easy for people to get from their shtetl to the boat in order to sell the ticket. There was great competition among the shipping lines. That's why, for example, you'll see that many people took the indirect route. The indirect route was from a European port to Grimsby in England. They took the train.
Exactly.
They took the train across England to Liverpool and left from Liverpool. And it was a seamless journey, all arranged by the boat, by the ship. So Canadian Pacific, for example, you see, in 1906, I think it was, more than 1 million people destined for the United States came through Canadian ports because of the fact that the large shipping company, whether it's Canadian Pacific or another, offered a great deal. Now, when you say a great deal, it's all relative. If you look at the amount of money in US dollars that people declared that they had on arrival, in 1900, it's like $5 or $10, but that could go a long way. Anyway, the story of what's called the immigration journey has been written up over and over again. One of the great books on the whole immigration story is The World of Our Fathers by Irving Howe. And that can be very informative. Also, this whole subject of travel in Poland, in Lithuania, in Eastern Europe to the ports are also featured in many different threads over the years on Jewish Gen. Another source of this information are the shipping lines archives websites. So you can go to the Hamburg website, Hamburg Line website, and I haven't looked at it myself, but I have a feeling that it will have a lot of information how people got to Hamburg and why they came to Hamburg, etc. Obviously, it was a big port and had a number of shipping lines, and you had alternatives. If you look at the ships arriving in New York, there was a ship 2, 3, 4 a day coming from the European ports. Unfortunately, the records from Bremen, which was the other main German port, did not survive. But the Holland American Line records are also extremely invaluable, and I think the Holland American Line website may have a lot of that information as well. So if you're trying to flesh out that journey, that would be a way of
right.
And also there are a number of letters that have written by people who've made the journey and who've written back home to say how it went, where they went, whatever happened, and some of that stuff has survived as well. So all I can say is it's out there. You just have to dig.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, I was able to. I actually the ship that they took from Hamburg to Grimsby was owned by the railroad company that took them to Liverpool. And from Liverpool, I know they got on the White Star Line, the Teutonic, and they ended up in New York. I'm just curious how people made their way to Hamburg, even to Berlin, if they were, like you said, it could be a guessing game at this point of whether they, hired.
Yeah. First of all, I would say that, the Baba Misa of somebody saying he walked halfway across Europe to the port, take that with a grain of salt. That's number one. Did they take a horse and wagon? Unlikely. Maybe in 1825, and the first immigrants, that might have been but once the railroads existed, it was a matter of getting to the railroad station, the nearest railroad station, and going from there. And these shipping companies, they had agents on the ground all over in the smallest shtetls. They would go and post messages on boards, on walls, shtetl by shtetl, because they got a commission. This was their business. They were selling tickets. Okay.
Thank you.
Let's move on. Who's the next person who got a hand up? Okay, Audrey, please. You have to unmute yourself.
Okay. So,
how are things in Hawaii?
No, I'm in Miami.
Okay, well, it looks
I had a
pretty...
problem with my computer, and the guy said, "You want a new background?" I said, "Okay." So my maternal grandparents left London in England, I'm positive, in 1906, with 2 very young children. And all I know is they came to Montreal. I don't know. I assume they left Liverpool, and I don't know where they landed in Canada.
Okay, so is that the first question you have?
Right.
Okay, how do you know that they left Liverpool and came to a Canadian port?
Well, I assume because Liverpool is a big port there. They lived in London.
Okay, so Liverpool. Have you looked at the emigration records from England?
I've tried. I couldn't find anything.
You couldn't find them. Okay,
Yeah.
so
And the reason I think they came in 1906 because they had two children with them that were born in 1903 and 1905, and my mother was born in Montreal in early 1907.
I see. Okay, and you haven't been able to find them in the passenger arrival records?
No, I haven't been able to get that.
Okay, so let's take a look at the passenger arrival records
Okay.
from on the Steve Morse website. And this is something that I haven't mentioned, so just keep it in mind. It is a great option for searching. And by the way, if you have people in Toronto, there's the Ontario Jewish Archives that you may want to look at. So here's stevemorse.org. Stevemorse.org is what's called the one-step pages, which is a more efficient way of searching a number of, it's like a dashboard, except you still have some other steps to make. So here we're looking for other ports, and we're looking for Canadian passenger lists. And what is the family name?
Costom, Costom.
I'm sorry, I don't hear you.
C, like in Charlie.
Oh, C?
O. S as in Sam. T as in Tom. O as in Oscar. M as in Mary.
Oh, Costum.
Right.
Oh, I know who was the Costum that I knew in Montreal? Okay.
Yeah, I'm probably related to them.
Oh, okay. So we're going to say we want Costum.
Right.
We want, we say Liverpool.
I assume so, yeah.
Well, we'll put Liverpool, just
Okay.
Liverpool. Arrival port, we're not saying it, we're saying Canada.
Right. His
Canada.
first name is Hyman.
Okay, and arrival, we're saying sometime around 1905.
I think 6.
Okay, so 1906 plus or minus 3 years.
Okay.
And we'll search. Nothing. Okay. Now, how sure are you that the family name was Costum and not something else originally?
No, because I found my grandfather's naturalization papers, and I also have the 1911 census, and it's under Costum.
Okay,
and it
so
was Costum in England with a K.
all right, very good. So we're going to say sounds like. We're changing that to sounds like.
Okay.
And we're also going to try searching again. And still no luck. So now we want to broaden this. We'll take out Liverpool.
Okay. Could
Because
be
they-
somewhere else.
Because they could have left someplace else. Still no luck.
Wow.
All right. And let's take out the arrival place, just in case. And let's broaden this to 5 years, just right.
Maybe they went to another place. I don't know.
Well, that's where I'm.
Yeah.
So here we go. Percy, Mrs. Costum, 1901 to Montreal. Percy Costum, 1901 to Montreal.
No, it can't be because they're two children they brought with them were both born
Okay.
in London.
And so we'll try something else.
Okay.
What we'll do now is we're going to go back, and we're going to put in Costom, Costom. And now we're searching any locality. So we're going to search Canada. And we see 6,240 entries. No, that's no, so we want to edit the search. And what was his first name?
Hyman.
Hyman.
Right. And my grandmother's name was Annie.
Well, let's start with Hyman.
Okay.
We have 8 listings.
Oh,
Hyman,
there's my grandmother right there, Annie Weisenberg.
okay, that's your grandmother.
Yeah, but she
Oh,
was
but-
born in Warsaw.
This is a family tree. Somebody's family tree. Do you know who this is?
Wow.
And here's the family tree is Halabel 2426.
Where is that?
That's their moniker. How do you
They spell
contact?
that.
Here, joined message.
Bell.
Okay. So we want to type your message. So what is it? Please contact. And what's your name?
My first name's Audrey
Audrey.
Aronchik. Aronchick.
And you are the granddaughter of?
My grandpa Hyman and Annie. Costa.
Hyman and Annie?
Yes.
And Annie,
My grandmother's maiden name was Weisenberg.
granddaughter of Hyman and Annie.
Costin.
Okay, Hyman Costum.
Wow.
And Annie Weisenberg.
Yes. Now I know where they both were born.
And your email is?
AMA.
Hold on a second. Email. AMA.
GROWER.
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 At
Yahoo.com.
yahoo.com.
Yeah.
And I'm going to read it back to you just to make sure that I got it right. AMAGROWER at yahoo.com.
Correct.
Thank you.
Wonder where Halabel came from. Wow.
Okay, so that's been sent.
Thank you.
Well, it's nice to have some breakthrough.
Yeah.
And so,
Unless they went to New York or another city and then
well,
traveled to
that's
Montreal. I
here's the arrival, 1906.
Right.
And it shows in the census of Canada that that's what the arrival was. We're not going to bring that up. I don't want to spend time on that one.
Okay.
Okay. And then you have marriage and divorce in England.
They were married in 1902
Yeah,
in
well,
London, England.
here's it. And there's the burial registry, find a grave, newspapers,
Yeah,
obituary,
they're in Duluthban.
Canada voters, 1920. Is this his grave in Montreal?
Oh, I think that's my Yeah, I have a picture of that. My rabbi got it for me.
Yeah, well, it's online in the JGS Montreal website
Right.
as well.
Right.
Okay, so that's a starting point to get some more information, okay?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Next question. Who's got a hand up? Nobody's got a hand up. Okay. Oh, Holly's got a hand up.
Just a question about my maternal great-grandparents. Most of the documents that I have say that they were born in Galicia. I mean, the family history is Polish Ukrainian. Would JRI Poland be a helpful database for me? I don't know how to deal with Galicia. You know, I put it
Okay.
in, sometimes it shows that Galicia is Spain. I know it's not Spain.
All right, all right. So here's first of all, you have the Austro-Hungarian Empire. Have you know the map? You know what it looks like? All right. So
I still
after
find it confusing.
okay. Well, it's basically let's say it looks like a boomerang reverse. Okay. So like the shape of Montreal. And the Austro-Hungarian Empire, when it was dissolved after the First World War, all of the Galician province was absorbed into Poland.
Okay.
And that would mean as far east as Lvov, far west as Krakow, and that area. After the Second World War, it was cut in half at the Bug River. And the east of the Bug River became part of the Ukraine, and west of the Bug River became part of Poland. And the first major town in the Polish side is Przemysl. So that's now, in terms of the records from Galicia, the former Galicia, that are from, let's say, 1877 around onward, those ended up in the archives of ancient acts in Warsaw.
Sorry, I'm not sure what that word is that you said. Ancient where?
Ancient acts, ACTS.
Oh, ancient acts. Okay.
Yeah, just refer to the name, the abbreviation AGAD, AGAD, AGAD Archives.
Okay.
In 1900, pardon me, in 2000, I can tell I'm a genealogist, I go back 100 years. In 2000, I negotiated with Director Weiss of the AGAD Archives to allow his staff to index the records for JRI Poland.
Okay.
The reason we couldn't do it ourselves is because the Galician records are what we call columnar style. The information's in columns, and there are no index pages. Whereas in the rest of Poland, we were buying index pages and data entering index pages. So that's a long background on the Galician records. Now let's talk about searching the Galician records. And we'll share screens. And we'll go to JRI Poland. And so give me we'll search. And what are we searching?
Kokonowski. K-O.
Pardon me?
Kokonowski.
Spell it.
K-O.
K-O-C-H.
C-H. A-N-O-W-S-K-I.
Kokonowski. Okay. And we're going to search by region. Now we're doing phonetically, like we're doing by region. We're going Galicia. Because Poland, if you'll see, we have the Russian Pale, which is the Grodno Gubernia, which is part, where Białystok is. You have the Congress Poland, the main part of Poland, and you have Galicia. And so we'll now search everything from Galicia. And we see there's only one record in the Krakow Cemetery for Katsanowski, Chaim David Katsanowski. Now that, remember, was a phonetic search. So we're going to go back and we're going to search now sound alike. And we're going to put square brackets around the K because we don't want, well, it might be a mistake, but let's try that. So now we have 5 records from the Tarnopol region. From Złotów, we have Korzmowski, and then you have from Zaleszewski, you have Czechanovska.
Yeah.
Uh,
No, none of those.
None of them.
those names. were-
Okay, so what does that tell us? Well, first of all, it tells us we're doing something wrong. Well, let's go to Krakow now. KRZ, ANOWSKI, Wolf, 1913. And then you have a Heidel or Heidle, married in 1814. And then you have a,
No.
that's repeated. And again, in the cemetery. So,
No.
let's try something else. We'll try something like fuzzy. Maybe there's one letter that's just not working. Oh, it's not working at all. Let's take the, no. All right, so what other options are there? What given names do you know for the family?
For my great grandfather, it's Simon Samuel. For his father, it's Jan.
Is what?
Jan, Jan.
Oh boy, I don't know. That may.
Oh, that's horrible to search.
No, what I'm saying is that it's not typical Jewish name. So, and so we have, let's say, a given name Jan, and we have a given name Simon or Samuel. Let's do Samuel. And we'll stay with Galicia. And we want to see any records with a Jan and a Samuel. There's only 2,487.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the problem.
Okay.
What we want to do is we want to pin it down to a time period. When would,
He was born in 1887.
okay, so we'll do 1880 to 18, let's
And he
do
came to Canada in 1907.
1890. Let's see what happens now. There still are far too many.
Yeah.
What we're looking for a birth, let's say. Now, the problem with the search here is that the name Samuel can come up as the child, can come up as the father, can come up as a grandfather. So this is one of the problems that we're trying to resolve with the new JRI Poland website and search system, so that you can pin down more specifically what you're trying to find.
And I think he only used Samuel in Canada. I think he used Simon, because that's on the naturalization records is Simon.
Ah, okay. Thank you. That's important. So let's do Simon, but we may actually try.
If you want a mother's name, that might be easier. It's
Okay.
Regina instead of Jan.
What's her name?
Regina, Regina.
Okay. Sima Roch, daughter of Marcus Cormier and Regina Roch.
Yeah. I can find Kokonowski in Jewish Gen, so maybe that's where I should.
Well, when you say Jewish, associated with what?
Let me just go back to that. Like the Jewish records, and where was it? I know it came up. Oh, wait a minute. I am on JRI. Okay, JRI Poland. It comes up with the maps, Kokonowski.
Okay, so we're on JRI Poland.
Yeah, that's where I just took a quick look while I was waiting to ask you.
Okay, so give me that spelling again.
Kochanow.
Kocha
NOWSKI,
SKI.
but it has no mention of,
Okay, so
Alicia.
let's just do surname, and let's get rid of the data type. All regions. Get rid of this, get rid of that. All types. So it comes up in Krakow.
yeah, but not with the name.
Oh, it's CHRZ or ZANOWSKI.
Ah.
So that's probably the likely spelling. And that means from the town of Charnov. Krzyzanowski's from the town of Charnov. That sounds a lot more like it. So let's try searching on this in a broader way. Let's do sound like. And we go to the Krakow, Pietrkov. Let's try Lublin. No. I mean, you saw the name, but there's nothing that you
Yeah.
could pin down.
Yeah,
Okay.
because I'm getting Kazanowski and all that kind of stuff in the.
Yeah. Well, once more, it's a matter of following the paper trail, trying to figure out something. Where does that come from in terms of they arrived where?
My great-grandfather came through Halifax, according to
Right.
naturalization, and went to Winnipeg.
What? Okay, and you
Worked
have
on the
the
railroad.
naturalization.
Yeah.
And when did was he alive in 1940?
He was alive in 1940. He died in 1950. God, 52.
Okay, so have you obtained the 1940 Canadian national registration for him?
No.
Okay, that is the next gold mine, because let me again share screens. And what we'll do is we'll put in here 1940 Canadian national registration. And this is where you write Statistics Canada. And here's where you place the order. But let me show you what's in there. That's what's important. You have, this is the form, and when they send it to you, they actually take the handwriting and then they fill it. They will type out, they will read the handwriting for you and type out the form.
Okay.
And this is what's there. Place and country of birth of individual and his or her parents.
Yeah.
That is.
Okay. Because I don't know when his parents were born or.
That's right. And if this may tell you where he was born, the exact town, and where his parents were born.
Yeah, because that's what I can't narrow down. I can't.
Exactly. Okay. So it's going to cost you $48.15. And it's probably the best investment you can make.
Okay. That sounds really good. Thank you.
The waiting time is 2 months, 4 months, a year.
Doesn't matter.
It's
Right
a
now,
long.
everything's
It's
long.
it's a long time. It's a long time because during the pandemic, too many people have a lot of time on their hands.
Would this also apply for my great grandmother, his wife, or did they only do men?
No, thank you for asking. Each person had to do it, and naturally their information will be different.
Right. Yeah, because I have their names from the marriage certificate, but don't know where.
Okay, well, order it, and if there's any success, make a donation to the JGS of Montreal.
I will.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more questions, or can I show something else? Okay, Andres, unmute yourself, sir.
Okay, for Vienna, once you have the name, so the name was Stein, I guess. So the name of the father is on the birth record. With the name of the father, I put it on the chat. With the name of the father, you do a request for information for the historical residence registration records. I put the URL on the chat. If you click there, there's also a link there where you get an online form you can fill in to get the registration, the residence registration sheet, which should contain the data of the father.
So why don't you walk me through this?
Okay, I can show. Can I share the screen?
Yeah, you should. Well, yeah, it's best if you share screens.
Okay.
Go ahead.
And share the screen. Let me see if I can find it. Just a second.
Down at the bottom.
Yeah. No, that's not. I have to find the right. It will take a minute. Okay.
Are you sharing? Can you share?
Not yet. I have to.
Right in the middle. At the middle, at the bottom.
Yeah. Is that one? I think that's the right one.
There we go.
Is it the right one that I shared?
Okay.
That's the wrong. No, that's not. It's my. Let's try again.
No, I mean, it's just a matter of changing your. Okay.
Yes, I know. I have to find the right thing. Where is it? I have too many windows open. Nation from. Okay, I think that's the one. Yeah. So information, can you see it? Information from historical residence registration records application. So that's what you have to do. Because the city of Vienna, like most cities in Germany and in Austria, they had a central register of all the residents, even if they were not citizens. And it has the name of all the members of the household and of the head of the household. It also has the place of birth and also the place of citizenship, because in Austria, like, the citizenship was always connected to a place. So
can you navigate to that?
There's a link here, sis. Here it says form there. You see where the red line is? Form. So you click on that and you get the application form. Okay, you have to select your natural person and forward. First name, family name, title, address, contact, and so on. And then you have to fill in all this. and it costs 30 euros or so. I don't know, it will probably take also a month or half a year to get an answer. But these sheets are very informative.
Okay, so we don't see the results. If you type in something, do you get any?
No, you don't get it. You don't get an immediate result. It's the same thing like with the 1940 registration.
Right, okay, all right.
So you have to wait until they answer.
Yep. All right, thank you.
But it's the only way to do, if it's not in GenTeam, then that's the only way to get it. Because
Right.
GenTeam has indexed everything that is readily available. All the Vienna Jewish records have been indexed by GenTeam.
All right, thank you, Andres.
Now, up to the Bavarian town, that town, Oberschneiding, is a town that never had any Jews. It's not. It's in a Catholic region of Bavaria where Jews did not live. Let me stop sharing. Jews did ordinarily not live there. So it's really interesting that, who was it? It was her father, Julie's, no, was it Julie's father who was the one in Bavaria? No. Hey.
That's my grandfather.
Yes, your grandfather, yes.
And
yes.
his mother was Teresa Ekman, but I don't know where.
You don't know where. No, you have to write to the town. They probably have it.
But don't forget to check the family finder for that name Ekman as well.
Yes.
You never know who's looking. That's
yes.
Always go back to the family finder.
Yeah.
And Bavaria is a little bit difficult because nothing is indexed and nothing is online. Very few things are online.
Yeah, and as I said, maybe Roger can help you as well. We only have, we have 20 minutes. If there's no questions, I will demonstrate a couple of things that might be of interest to people. So there's no questions. So one of the things that the Jewish Genealogical Society of Montreal has been doing over the years, and we're now in our 26th year, is creating data. We have indexed fully extracted all the Jewish records of Quebec from 1841 to 1942, and some synagogues some later years as well. One of the benefits, or one of the features of the Jewish records of Quebec is the fact that they were kept separately according to the Napoleonic tradition. In the rest of Canada and most of the United States, other than in New Orleans, the records were kept on a civil records basis. They are now in Quebec civil records from 1993 onward. So having all the Jewish records is very, very valuable when it comes to searching, because there are many names that appear to be Jewish that aren't, and many names that appear not to be Jewish that are. Names like Turner and Gordon are actually Jewish names. Sometimes they are actually names that were changed. And in other cases, the name Gordon, as an example, is a derivative of the Grodno gubernia name, a toponymical name for a region or a town of Grodno. So I'm going to share screens and show you what we have now developed, or Alan Greenberg has developed. And this is a group of different sources. So here is a burial register that we have. This is all the burials that we have provided to JOBR, the Jewish Online Worldwide Burial Registry. So we have our own collection. So we can look for any grave. Anybody looking for a grave, for example, we go find, and if I want to find, my father, for example, we'll look for Harry. And we'll see right here. And no, sorry. We have to, so that's just the burial registry. Then we go to another source, and we'll go to Quebec marriages. This is an index of all the Quebec marriages from 1926 to 1996. You know, millions, there are millions of records in here. This does not exist anywhere online. The Jewish Genealogical Society of Montreal 20 odd years ago managed to purchase this from the government before they stopped sharing it with genealogical societies. So there's only a few organizations that have this. So if we're looking for a let's say we'll look for my marriage record. And this is not a marriage record. It is a sorry. Thanks to my wife, I swear in Dutch. So here is this entry. Now, if I want to see what that record looks like, you have to go to the website of the Drouin and pay there for it. And so this is we go to Genealogie Quebec and we put in here Diamond and we put in Stanley and we search and this is the registration of marriage. It is a government document for the Ministry of Health. It is not the marriage record, although it's filled in by the Rabbi Cohn. And it gives you, quite a bit of information. My wife's Dutch, born in Amsterdam. Sometimes it'll just show the country. When we got married, November the 11th, quite a day, the day I gave up my independence, or I surrendered. Okay. The other thing that you want to know about this particular record is that there is a comparable marriage record in the books of the Sharazine Synagogue. And that is where the official record that has been given to the civil authorities is located. Now let's go back here again. And let's say we're looking for and what's wonderful about this is that, I make a joke about it, but when we had a reunion of our 6th and 7th grade special class at Willingdon School at the beginning of the 1944, 1945, we had this reunion of 90 people from around the world. And in order for me to be able to find some of these women that were in our class, we needed to know who they married. This enabled us to do that. And so now we want a death record. Let's talk about the deaths. And if we're looking for the death of, let's say Mordechai Richler, I don't think he's in there, but we'll look for Richlers. And you can see that in the later years, they have the mother's surname and the father's and the spouse name. In the earlier years, they didn't. So if we take a look here, 1957, they don't. So this is a wonderful way to find out other information about people. And this index stops in 1996. That's when we managed to get it. And it was made just prior to the civil record keeping. Now, the next thing we have is the Canadian naturalizations. And let's talk about Canadian naturalizations. You have both the Canadian naturalizations and you have the Montreal Circuit Court registrations. So let's look for Pearson. And you'll see you have all these Pearsons. And at the bottom, I'm displaying now. It's going to take a moment. Notice all the Pearsons from Sweden and Norway. That's a Scandinavian name. It's not coming up. There we go. So this is the Canadian Naturalization Index page. And so the name Pearson is right here. Axel Pearson, Sweden, a farmer, where he was naturalized, and the naturalization number. And that's the key for applying for a naturalization, the fast way to get an answer. So I'm going to stop sharing that. And we're going to go back to here. Now, what are these here? These are different sequence. So let's take a look at so let's take a look at a Pearson from Russia. And you see it says MCC. And MCC is Montreal Circuit Court. And this is what makes, this is a wonderful, no, I'm sorry. MCC. So let's look at Harris Pearson again. And we're going to display. Now this takes us right to the Library and Archives website, and take a look. You see the actual original records. And this is a cousin of mine. And you'll see the date someplace, 1892. And there are several different documents in these collections. For some reason, okay, so there's another document. Now, if we go back, let's take Jack Pearson, the best man at my father's wedding. Oh, geez. And these are different format. Now you get a very sexy document. Jack Pearson, Bialystok, Taylor, and the signature. The next one is the oath of residence and the oath of allegiance. And then you get the next one. Oh, come on. And since this is a court document, Library and Archives Canada is a little slow today. Here we go. So it is basically a legal document in the sense that we know it. And if you go to the last one of these, you'll see an actual fold, the way these court documents appeared. All right, so I'm stopping sharing now.
Stanley, is this accessible to members, this sort system?
No, to members, we can search it for members. Victoria.
Yeah, hi, Stanley. We've received an email from Mel Salman, who had to leave early. And he said, I think the woman who described her family's member deportation to Mauthausen was misunderstood. She specifically was referring to the 1930s and the Spanish fascist regime, and said it was before Mauthausen became the Nazi extermination camp. There were prisoners of the Spanish Civil War from the late 1930s sent to Germany, apparently.
Oh.
This is historically important. Mauthausen was used as a camp before World War II. She seems to have provided unique family testimony, which could well be not known generally. Dachau was certainly opened in 1933 and used. I don't know if this is generally known about Mauthausen. If her relative was killed before World War II, that person would not likely appear in any post-1940s Holocaust records.
Very good. That's very important news.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So, Sophia, are you there? Oh, good.
I guess he's not there now.
She's here. She's here. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
If you want to unmute yourself and say if you think that applies to your family.
Okay. Thank you so much. Yeah, in fact, it has been like so confusing because what I knew is that before being the Mauthausen camp, it was a place where people used to go to work. They didn't know it like an
it was a labor camp, you mean, instead of an extermination.
Yeah. Exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, so I hope that might be useful for you.
Yeah, for sure. And thank you so much.
Okay.
Well, that came from Mel Salman, who sent an email about it. He apologized for leaving early.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And if you want to pursue that, if you want Mel's email address, you let us know, okay?
It's possible.
I can put it in the chat, his
Okay.
email address. Okay,
All
I'll
right.
do that now.
And we have a couple more minutes. I just wanted to show you one more thing that I had not shown you before in sharing screens. And we're going to share again. I'm going back to this
Just a second.
one I did not show you are the Canadian, the Montreal birth records, marriage records, and some. So somebody give me a name of, if you're looking for your birth record, what in Montreal, what's your name? Somebody? Okay, I'll put my name. I'm looking for Stanley Diamond's birth record. And here it is, okay? Now I want to see my birth record.
Does it have to be Jewish?
Yes, these are the Jewish entries. So my mother's handwriting never changed. And so what I was going to say was important here is that these records appear on Ancestry, but on Ancestry, they're only a basic index. So why is this important? Well, let's go back here again. And if I can remember where I was, okay. So let's say we're looking for a find. We want to know the name, a family name of somebody by the name of Samuel, let's say, we'll put it Sam, and his mother's given name is Rita. And we know that Rita family name began with a B, but that's all we knew. And we're trying to find their children. There's nothing. Okay, so modifies. So we'll try, instead of Rita, we'll put a B for Betty. And there we see all the Sams, all the Bs, and we see all the potential family names. And we can sort those. Sort, and we'll the search name. So now we can look and say, oh, it's the Bamel family. So that's the point. We can do things with this system because of these full extracts, again, made by my wife. Thank you, dear Ruth, that we can find information on families' names that changed. So sometimes, for example, you'll see, let's take, you'll see different spellings that wouldn't come up in a sound alike. So here, for example, you've got Millman spelled with one L, sometimes with two L's, the exact same family, Samuel and Brena. Okay. So that's it, folks. That's the end of today's session. I hope you'll come back, and I hope you'll come back with more questions. Obviously, it's a challenge to answer all the questions, but we try to do the very best we can. Thank you, Vicki, for being here, and Marilyn, thank you for organizing today as well. I shout out to both Victoria, Vicki Barkhoff, and Marilyn Hayes, who act as the brains behind putting this together every month. And we got a thumbs up from Marilyn. Dziękuję bardzo, grazie, gracias, evharisto, and all the other. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you again soon. Now, don't forget, we have a meeting on, what is the 22nd? Tomorrow. Vicki, do you want to unmute yourself? Tell us about the meeting tomorrow.
Tomorrow afternoon at 3 p.m.
Yeah, Gary Schroeder, the president of the Quebec Family History Society. And Gary is a walking encyclopedia of genealogical information. He's not an expert on Jewish genealogical research, but he can give you a picture of the world where we live, and has been invaluable over the years in lecturing to our society. So join us tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock, and we hope you'll be part of our family tomorrow. Thank you again, everybody. Take care.